Good evening, friends. Welcome once again. And as I mentioned this evening, we will be taking this reading by Kriyananda ji. And by the way, this is a beautiful book, as you must be knowing. Also, one of the best books to gift to others, perhaps, who are not so familiar with the teachings, because it contains very doable, principles. It has. We can apply those teachings in our lives. For example, for March 14th, Kriyananda ji writes over here. Answer rudeness with courtesy. You might reply with a smile. Life is all the richer for the many points of view it presents. Now, is that needy? Is that required? Is that applicable? I would say absolutely. It is applicable from both angles. If you happen to be a person who gets rude once in a while, I've seen that tendency. Situations, I should say, I can say, circumstances can, bring that unfortunate side out of us. Or if you have been on the receiving end, then, sometimes when we receive a certain kind of treatment from others, people say, wait for my time to come and I'll shower the same blessings or the action or thoughts that I have suffered from on others. It may not be, of course, a general way of thinking, but actually that is what ends up happening many times if we do not take note. And Kriyananda ji very beautifully is writing of actually a quality. I don't know if it is really diminishing, but considering the number of people there are, the pace of life, it is certainly very less found nowadays. We were visiting the home of a gentleman here in Pune, and he had met Kriyananda ji. Actually, his aunt was a very good friend of Swamiji since 1950s when Kriyananda ji first came to India. And we were having this wonderful time together, all of us from the ashram and him. And he had a beautiful house. And interestingly, as we were appreciating, his life, the work he did and all, he suddenly said, but refinement, qualities like nobility, courtesy, they are almost gone. And I thought about it. He was right on some level, but then you think about it, and the first thought is, my goodness, if it's going, what can we do about it? How can we bring it about in our lives? I also remember in Pune, I visited my teacher who taught me in kindergarten, and a guest had come to our ashram, and as I was picking their bags and showing them their room, I asked them where they're from. And they were from the very small same locality in Pune where I had studied 32 years ago. And I said, oh, I used to go to school in somebody's house over there. They said, tell us about her or the person. And I said, oh, you wouldn't know, it was just an apartment. Well, he knew. I went and met my ma'am when they told me the address. And it was very interesting. She said that she was very happy that I was happy. That was one of her questions. Are you happy? I said, I'm very happy, ma'am. She said, yeah, some come who are not happy. And she said, what actually disturbs me the most is a trend in parenting today where parents come up to me, and these are again kids of kindergarten. She's still teaching very young students. She said, they tell me, ma'am, your stories are wonderful, but please don't tell them too many good stories. After all, the world is becoming not such a good place. How will they cope with it? But friends, let's put it this way. If you have never eaten good food or a good cake or you had the real orange juice, let's say from, I think it's Valencia in Spain, how would you know what is the taste of that real stuff? Likewise, if those qualities, as the yogis say, are inside of us, if they are going, all the more reason why should we be practicing them in our lives. And Kriyananda ji is mentioning over here that when people are rude, are they rude? Oh yes, you just have to turn on the TV channel to see how it is considered to be, as somebody would say, well, that's how people are, that's how life is. It is a very unfortunate side effect of urban living, and especially as cities get bigger and bigger, people are meeting new people all the time. There is no consideration over there. There is perhaps no need felt. Why should I be good? It's like somebody's t-shirt once, read, I am not paid enough to be good to you too. That I will serve you, but goodness, that's too much. But no, it's not like that. Actually, of course, on the spiritual path, we soon realize there is a sacred selfishness over there in being good. Rudeness, actually, if you study it, is a sign of weakness, is a sign of unwillingness to perhaps or inability to explain oneself. You want to quickly just brush off the statement. It could be a sign, you might say, of total lack of respect. And that's why I said, let's say if you consider good friends, they'll hardly be rude. Actually, in good friendship, rudeness, little bit rudeness, even in thought, can sometimes mar the whole relationship. And that's why people say that, you're lucky if you have even one good friend. And what is friendship really? What is marriage? What is relationship? You can apply it even on work if, by extension. It is a connection. It is the way one soul would like to treat another. And if we see it from that point, love, respect, consideration for other people's needs, consideration for one's own refinement, shall I say, joy, will move us in that direction where we would like to not even steer in the direction of rudeness. Rudeness also, friends, is often the sign of somebody who's exasperated at life, and it may be a good time to maybe stop back and think, what are we doing? As Master used to say, he said, over familiarity leads to contempt. And then Kiranandaji would say, and contempt would lead in time, it can express itself as rudeness. But if we think of, what Swami is suggesting over there, as you might say, the treatment is the loving balm, the healing balm of courtesy. Now, if you see some of the older movies, you see there was a lot of cordiality, refinement, even in the actors, singers at that time. The way people would just relate to one another in certain controlled environments. Let's say companies, workplaces where people have had an association for a long time, spiritual groups, which of course I don't even have to explain. On one level, if Kriyanandaji used to repeatedly remind us, this is the seat of the ego, the medulla, and you can get very tight over there, and on one level we may say rudeness can spring from there, whereas this is the seat of humility. And it's very easy for us to be kind and considerate, loving towards others. And this is another point to consider. Somebody who is wearing that mask of rudeness, perhaps because he or she does not know any better, might only be silently expressing beneath that mask, oh, if only somebody loved me, if only somebody would understand me. I remember a very stark example of this. Years ago, I was in Delhi when this happened, and I was riding a rickshaw with a friend, and we were going to All India Institute of Medical Sciences, and it's a very big campus. And we were coming from quite a distance, so it was quite surprising for both of us when the entrance gate came and the rickshaw fellow said, okay, so much is the money. And his voice was quite different, even though we hadn't spoken much. After we had bargained in the beginning, he said, this is the money, you can get down here. And while I was just trying to process that how was he so sure that we just want to go to the main gate of such a huge campus and not actually to our residence, which normally they ask, where would you like to go, this route, that route? And my friend immediately burst out and he said, how dare you talk to us like this, to doctors, we are doctors, we work over here. And of course, I could feel now doubly that the situation was worsened because my friend got emotional. It was just not feeling right. And the auto rickshaw guy retorted, I know all about you doctors who work over here. And it got worse, and my friend was almost ready to get deeper into this when I told him, I said, stop, wait a minute. I said, Bhaiya, it's absolutely fine if you drop us over here, but normally if we are coming from such a distance, people would ask where to drop you. It's a big campus. Very few people actually would get down on the main gate. And the fellow broke down. He said, please tell me where's your house. I'll drop you there. He said, I just lost my son a few months ago over here in this hospital. And he said, I think it was because of doctor's negligence. Now, how was his rudeness? He was putting on that show of rudeness. Why would he open his heart or his feelings, his story to doctors? We were engrossed, let's say, in our own chat. But you see, behind that was a human heart. Just the way courtesy is a part of your soul, mind, nobility, refinement, kindness, brings happiness to us all. He was not happy expressing rudeness, but in the lack of something, he was, you might say, overcome by emotions and such. And my friend could not see that, and he was ready to get into that conversation. Sri Yukteswarji repeatedly used to say, try to listen to the unspoken communication behind the spoken words, because many people are not able to express themselves over there. Another thing Swami is saying over here is you may want to respond with a smile. Now, what's the magic of a smile? Master called it the most, beautiful ornament one can wear on themselves. He said a genuine smile can do wonders. And actually now doctors have studied, I am always presenting these studies. This is also the seat, by the way, the prefrontal lobe, the spiritual eye, is the seat of our personality, or of our, you might say, behavior. And so if we are rude too much, or if somebody is rude, I think meditation, yoga, and certain practices like that, focusing, keeping their attention over here, offering themselves, praying, observing the breath over here, might be some very good tools. Similarly, they have found that a smile, a genuine smile, triggers a part of the brain which sends a message to the body. This is a BBC News from a few years ago, and it says, oh, everything will be fine. Likewise, I remember, I'll give you another example, and then I'll tell a story of Master which is very, very interesting, of how he responded and earned great respect for himself and the work just by being kind under a very trying circumstance. And this was 2 years ago. It was Master's birthday. We had thought we'll do a program in his honor and name, and we chose a big location. It was quite expensive. We knew beforehand, and people had prepped us up. They said the owner of that place is not an easy man to handle. And I said, well, let's go two. Let's go in a pair and see what to do. Let's take the checkbook and maybe we'll finalize the deal. And it was actually much more expensive than we had imagined. The rules were not so flexible. We wanted the venue for 4 hours. The fellow said, I'll give it only for 15 hours. This is a marriage hall and such. And anyway, to make the very long story short, I told him, sir, you have a wonderful venue, but it's a bit too expensive. We are a charitable organization. Can you please reduce the cost? He said, am I here to do charity or run a business? And I said, well, certainly you're here to run a business, but because it's our guru's birthday, maybe you will consider giving us a discount. He said, he's your guru, not mine. And it's his birthday, not mine. I mean, you can see the kind of replies we were getting. Then I said, well, a spiritual teacher on one level is everyone's father or mother, and maybe, he'll certainly bless you if you believe in such a grace coming through, but maybe you'll consider it. And he said, okay, give me some time to think. And I went back a few days later, and his wife was there. And I said, oh, by the way, we want it for that day we took it for day 1. Then we had more plans, and we went back for day 2. I knew all his rules, and I said, I know you don't give it for a few hours, but it'll be really kind if you could for just a couple hours. And we are happy to pay for it. And we'll pay for the full day if it's not realistic for you, because we really need it. And he said, why don't you take it for half the day? Just pay me for half the day. I said, really? And I looked around at my friend and his wife, and he said, yes, yes. Then his wife says, won't you ask him, why is he being so generous and kind to you? I said, why are you being so kind, sir? And he said, because he was quiet. He was kind of shy in that moment and blushing. And his wife said, then he said, because 5th of January is also my birthday. And actually on day 1, he had told me it's not my birthday. And I said, but you said it's not your birthday. He said, I know. And I also know about Yogananda ji. I've read his books, and my brother-in-law reads too much about him. Will you believe it, friends? Not only was he extremely cooperative from there, he actually gave us the venue free of charge from there on. He said, come anytime. And he opened up. He said, I have done all kinds of exercises, but I'm not really happy. Maybe meditation will help me. Maybe yoga will help me. And a team had gone to him before our going, and they had come back and they said, we are not going there. This man is impossible to handle. And what I'm saying is, it's good for us once in a while to put ourselves in that circumstance. Of course, don't get killed in the process, but just to see what is there. And Swamiji said that often if you go with that feeling, how can I express more love? How can I try to understand this situation? And I often, if I end up, there's no option, but if I know that such a situation is coming up, I often go with some preparation just to see how much I can take and how it can help me. And later, if we don't perform well, you come back and you introspect, you reflect on these things. Another story of Master is this one. When Master was running a school for his children before he went to the US, they thought of celebrating their annual day in a very big way by inviting a prominent man in the district. And unanimously, everybody said, oh, there's this magistrate who should be invited. He was so well known, Yogananda ji said, that the school principal, himself said, I'll step down and this person should be the, chief guest for that evening. And Yogananda ji went personally to invite him. And from the very beginning, the magistrate told him, yet another spiritual organization, and you being a monk and, you're creating this work. Has India not seen enough of you all? And what good is ever accomplished by this and you and your people and your work? I'm sorry, I don't have time to waste on such things. And on he went. And Master in the end listened to all of this and he said, maybe sir, you'll change your mind and perhaps you'll reconsider. We would be really honored to have you. The children will be very happy. The staff would feel encouraged. And sure enough, just as the event started and somebody was already on stage, this magistrate walked in. And everybody got up. They had so much respect for him. And he went straight on stage. And he said, I want to share one thing very briefly. He said, forget all the hundreds of monks who might come from this work, all the children and the teachers who will benefit, and the awards your school has won. That is all fine. But if your school can produce even one soul like your founder, Yogananda ji, I think not only your school, but our entire country would be blessed. And he said, I tested him as far, as much as I could. And all I can say is very gracefully he passed my tests. That he was so kind, so courteous, so respectful, you might say. Sri Yukteswar ji, when he tried to once convince his mom of something, and she immediately sharply replied to him, son, I'm not your disciple. Master who was there, he said very humbly, Sri Yukteswar ji bowed before her, took her blessings, and he left the place. And since we celebrated Sri Yukteswar ji's Mahasamadhi a few days ago, I want to mention one point which is very central to what you and I practice. See, I was telling we should do energization exercises, yoga practices, meditation, introspection, observe some silence, chanting to enhance our ability to respond with courtesy. But one point I would like to especially mention over here is Sri Yukteswar ji's insistence on good behavior. He said, learn to behave, he would say. And behavior is about how you walk, how you sit, how you smile, how you respond to situations, and how you talk. How do you deal with people? How far can you go? Often spirituality has earned the misunderstanding, I should say, but partly we are responsible. Spiritual people are responsible of running away from situations, running away from life circumstances. But Master used to say, if something is coming of its own, he said, accept it and deal with it. And yes, we need to, I'm not saying surround yourself with people who are rude, not at all. Kindness has its magnetism to induce, almost the environment can induce those qualities in us. But one point Sri Yukteswar ji would mention is the effect of pranayam. That as we are practicing meditation, many times people ask the question, how do I know that I'm improving, I'm progressing spiritually, a few years or months have passed by? And I often, this is the most often reply we get when we ask people, oh, it's been 3 months you're coming to our classes, have you observed any change in yourself? And they say, the way I interact with people, the way I talk to them, the way I respond to situations has changed. I'm feeling more calm. That pranayam, energy control, is not only the inner energy, it is that in deep essence. But once that inner energy is really controlled, the fruit of that will be how we respond, how we are able to face these situations. Think of Christ. Rudeness is a small word based on the kind of treatment that was meted out to him. But what was his answer, solution, gift, you might say? The outcome of that experience was only love. Master said that his highest sermon was delivered from the cross. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That we are in this life, it is dual, it is a dream. But those of us, as we keep progressing towards the spiritual path, the way we conduct ourselves, I've heard many stories like this. I could go on about Swamiji also. People said that they never met somebody who responded with such love and courtesy to people in response to their rudeness. He had many tests in life. Another time, somebody came to a level 1 class that Jyotish and Devi ji were giving. And one lady was standing in the line later on to interact with them. And she was having this question to say, will this really help me in my life? I'm eager, but I'm not completely convinced. And before her turn came, one gentleman was interacting with Jyotish ji, and he was all critical about the class and the teachings, and this was no good and such. And Jyotish ji calmly responded to him one after another, and he said, well, maybe sir, maybe we can interact again, and I could try to explain better, or another teacher could also help, something like that. And by the time this lady's turn came, he said, yes, how can I help you? She said, just seeing your behavior with that gentleman has convinced me of the power of transformation of these teachings. I'm in for future classes. That's how we want to go. Now, I want to end with this final story of Kriyananda ji, where there was a member in the community who, for a long time, had not paid his dues. When he was asked, reminded firmly that it is about time, he came to Swamiji, and for an hour, Swami says, he told him all the things, which was everything in Swami's life, how it was wrong, it was not proper, and actually of no good, his music, his books, his behavior, his leadership. And Swami says, for that whole hour, I calmly listened to him, and I thanked him when he left. He said, then I went for a brief meditation, and in my study, I composed this song, and I think some of you will know it. I would like to sing it for you this evening. It's called, I Live Without Fear. Because truly, friends, it's not so much that we change ourselves. A little bit we can do, but as we progress, tests also enhance, increase in intensity, and finally we need the grace and blessings and the presence of God in our life, which is the goal of yoga and meditation, to overcome these tests altogether. So this song is called, I Live Without Fear. Though green summer fade and winter draw near, my Lord, in your presence I live without fear. Through tempest, through snows, through turbulent tide, the touch of your hand is my strength and my guide. I ask for no riches that death can destroy. I crave only thee, your love and your joy. The dances will pass, the singing must end. I welcome the darkness with you for my friend. So friends, have a nice week, and I pray that these practices enhance our ability to give love in response to difficult situations in life. Jai Guru.